today our tea is Blueberry Express because just express is a fun
Because
word.
express yourself.
Love yourself. Express yourself.
That's a meme.
We love
that
mine.
Love yourself. It comes into
yourself.
topic of our topic today, that is sexuality and sex and just the general stigmas
The
behind
stigma around all things sexual.
it. We love that.
So, I know that my personal beliefs when it comes to like love and sexuality is you love who you love, and I don't really think there's a way to change that.
Like, you can identify that as straight, you can identify that as
Yeah.
like pan or asexual.
But and I also don't understand why there needs to be
you
a
don't
label.
necessarily
why do you
have
have to label
to
yourself?
categorize it.
And I also personally think that sexuality is like a spectrum. So like you could be more straight, but still like girls, you could be more. You know
It's
what
like
I mean?
it's like the people who are like straight, but if you're not just a little bit gay with your best friend,
Are we really your best friend?
you know?
So we're not trying to come at this from like, oh, we're all this but blank 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 or whatever. You know, it's not something that we're trying to appropriate, and we're not. Basically, we're all around certain sexualities, and none of us really want to label ourselves. And it's that kind of stuff where, I mean,
Like,
typically
things
I own,
change.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it depends. For me personally, I identify as straight, but it depends on what you identify as, and I just don't want to. I want to make sure our viewers and everyone who watches, we want to make sure that people know and recognize that this isn't just like your typical, oh, we're just four straight people like going on at this from one perspective. It is a spectrum, right? And I know around theater, I'm in theater a lot, obviously.
The stereotypes of theater sexuality.
And so I am not afraid to express sexuality around women, because that's just the way that, don't leave me. Right? And I'm not afraid to say I love you to my friends, ever.
Sure.
And so again, we're not just like how we're not trying to appropriate any culture or anything like that. Biscuit loves me. Stop.
Maybe I'm just biased because I love Biscuit. And I
That's
miss
so
him.
rude.
I miss.
Yeah, it's weird to look at you now without Biscuit in your lap. I'm just
But
gonna go
most
do it.
people will commonly like associate me with, oh, you're lesbian and oh, you're bi. I hear that all the time.
And
Like-
guys get that too.
Like people,
Especially
like
you.
guys in theater, they're like, oh, you're gay, and it's like,
My girlfriend's right there.
Yeah, it's like, come on, let's go. And so like, okay.
I definitely that with dance too. If you
yeah.
were like a
Really?
guy dancer, you're like, oh wow, what if he's gay? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like don't assume that.
Don't assume, but I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it's so wholesome. Like, one of my friends just told me her boyfriend's in Disneyland with like our band on a like trip or something.
Cool.
Doing a competition, and he was like hit on by a gay guy in Disney, and he was super like both of the guys were super respectful, and he was like, hey, like, you're super attractive, I just want to know, like, would you want to go get lunch sometime or something? And my friend's boyfriend was like, no, I'm sorry, like, I'm straight and I have a girlfriend back home, but like, thank you, I find that really flattering. And I was like, that was such a wholesome interaction. Like,
Right.
like they both accepted no for the answer, and he wasn't like, whoa, bro, like, no homo, like, no. It was just like, chill.
I
Like,
hate when
you
guys-
found someone attractive and you shot the shot to tell them, which first of all, like,
Yeah. Shoot
Yeah.
your shot.
shoot your shot,
Okay.
full send it, but
Guys-
then also like be respectful about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wholesome.
Guys make a joke out of respecting each other, where it's like they'll like hug each other and there's something and be like, no homo though. Okay, why is
Like,
it
they'll
bad to
comment-
respect?
They'll like comment on each other's Instagram picture and be like, you're hot, no homo though.
You're hot, but like no homo.
But like,
Yeah.
we're not gay, we're just best buds.
Yeah, it's okay for women to comment all the time on their friends' Instagrams. Oh,
Be
you're
like,
so
hottie,
Well,
yes.
I think that's more
Yeah,
of a
that's
that's
more of a
gender.
general. That's
Yeah,
more of a
that's
general.
true.
Like,
like
women are just
men's,
more
like men are men.
the masculinity,
Right,
the
yeah.
toxic masculinity
Toxic
that says men can't compliment each other. And that's where I try. If I like something on a guy, I'm going to tell him, because I know that men do not get as complimented
And they
as
need
much
it.
as women.
Yeah.
And I want to
Deserve
feel
it.
confident. But then the problem comes when they're like, oh, so like, do you want to go out? And I'm like, no, I just
Yeah.
wanted to tell you that you have nice glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like all the time I always try to be nice to guys, and because I do have a bit of flirtatious like vibe, which is why some people do tend to believe. My sister tells me this all the time. She's like, well, you can't blame people for thinking that you are gay or you are lesbian or whatever, because you do kind of have that persona around everyone. I'm like, well, one thing, I'm sorry I'm nice to people. Like, you know, where it's like, I'm not gonna restrict myself just because you think it's like, oh, you're weird, oh my god. Like, I'm not trying to be some weird tease. Also, I hate when people call me a tease. Like, could you chill? I'm just trying to be nice. Like, bring it down. It's okay. And it's also not in bounds of consent. It's not bad to be sexual, unless it's like around like someone who is not comfortable with it.
If someone tells you it makes them uncomfortable,
Don't
Listen to
that's
them
a problem.
and stop.
It's gonna almost fell.
Biscuit agrees.
But yeah, like going back to that, I've been asked before in a theater setting. Someone was like, "Okay, Jamie, but like, are you bi?" And I was like, "I don't think so, as far as I know. But you know, things change over time. I don't know. I identify as straight right now. That could change. I honestly don't know."
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I do believe.
Yeah.
And the no labels, you love who you love, no matter what.
Yeah,
And then
I think
someone-
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And this,
Because I mean, you can meet anyone.
yeah.
Right.
And
Like,
so
you
like,
don't
why
know.
label
You
it and be
should
like,
be
"Oh,
allowed
you're a
to.
girl. Sorry, I can't." And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know.
And
And
why-
then religion comes into it, and that's where I get.
And why is it like bad to say you don't want any labels? Because when you say you don't want any labels, then not only does the straight community not accept you, then the bi or lesbian or gay community doesn't accept you. And everyone's like, well, why can't you just like label your? Well, because some people don't want to,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Why
And
do
you
I
need to
need
leave it
put a
alone.
label on what I am or how I feel? Why?
Yeah.
It's just, and people are like, I know there's like people who in theater.
Theater's very gender and sexually fluid, and
And
I
the
think
thing
that's a reason why we're so
Well, it's such
open
a
because
good
we've been around it so often. And I know
I'm a
theater,
film kid, so.
I'm not aware.
and so I know that like theater, like non-theater people are not necessarily like specifically non-theater people, but like I've just noticed theater kids as a whole are more like open to hearing like things outside of the norm.
Like, I'm absolutely comfortable kissing my friends. And that's really weird for some people. And I understand that. That's really weird for some people. But I think it's like just like a hug to me, which a lot of people find really, really weird and awkward and not okay. Which is fine. But I think
Personal thing.
I enjoy platonicity when it comes to whatever, right? I don't
Yeah.
think and that comes around with the stigma of like sex and like one night stands or whatever. I don't believe it. I think it's definitely a very intimate experience, whatever, with if it's kissing, if it's sex, if it's whatever. But I think it's always going to be something that someone can interpret the way they wish. I think, as always, if it's in the bounds of consent and general respect, then I think it can be whatever you want it to be. And that's just it, right? Where it's like, if you want to, I don't know, you think your friend's pretty cute. What are you gonna do about it? Your choice. It doesn't have to be, oh, I want this person as my boyfriend. You can just like, hey, listen, I have a proposition. If you consent to it, listen, you know what I mean?
If you consent to it.
If
that
you
was,
consent to it.
Yeah.
that was a good,
Yeah.
So-
good add-on.
But curious for a second, just like about the idea of like virginity and sex,
Mhm.
and what the concept of virginity is, you know, there's no just like line of like what is virginity and what, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's so like you can lose your virginity without having like what you might consider like,
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
There's
Low
different,
key.
yeah.
it's
It's
like,
very,
it's a spectrum.
yeah.
Like, it's kind of like when people, kind of off topic, but like when people consider a baby to be like a living thing, it's like, is it at conception? Is it at the heartbeat? Is
Yeah.
it when
Yeah.
they're born? It's like, when is
Yeah.
that? So it's like, I feel like virginity is very similar. It's like,
Well, 'cause,
Yeah.
like,
at
it's-
what step do you consider like it lost?
Yeah.
And then I
It's
kind of love
virginity is lost by sharing that sort of activity, like just with someone you love, or is it the actual like
Because some people I know.
penetration of?
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, the problem is that I know rape victims who are like, am I a virgin or not? And that's really, 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 really hard for them.
I think
Because-
it's up to the person.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, where it's like I've heard people say, well, I'm not a virgin, but not by choice. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
That
because
absolutely
virginity
breaks
should
me.
always be a choice.
It's always a choice, and if you don't consider yourself, like, it's not like someone who can say, I don't necessarily believe that if you're married and have 2 kids, you can call yourself a virgin. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying that if in a perspective of you are forced into something, or you just don't see something as full sex or whatever, then that's your own
Yeah.
belief, and I don't think it should. I know maybe.
It's perspective.
And then
Yeah.
something else about virginity, like the phrases like "lost my virginity" or "lost their virginity." Honestly,
Why did you
I
lose
feel like
something?
why'd you lose something?
I think it's something gained. Like
Yeah.
that's a whole other
That
step
is
of
why
like
he-
human life.
Yeah.
That's a new experience that you got,
Yeah.
that you've now experienced, and that you can like express in whatever way you choose. Like it's not
Yeah.
it's not like lost has such negative connotations to it. Like God, I lost
Yeah.
my keys, and it's like
Yeah.
dang, I lost my virginity. It's like no, it's like
I didn't
you
like
That's
that.
why I
you
feel like-
gained some, and hopefully it was like in a
Hopefully it's
consensual
good.
space with someone you love.
Yeah.
It's like you wanted
I
to
mean,
do
that's
it.
the idealistic
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah,
it
and so
doesn't
like
always
it's
happen.
that's
Yeah.
something that like human, like that's a part of human life, that when
Yeah.
you get to that
Right.
level with a person, it's like wow, like look at how close we are, look at this
Yeah.
thing
And
we
whether
get
it
to
be a-
share.
and whether
it should be a
between
beautiful
two
thing.
people.
It's
Yeah,
not
not
gross.
like sex.
And I don't
Sex is
care
not
about, like-
gross, and I feel like
No.
that's a huge stigma happening
Okay.
right
Yeah,
now.
and I don't
I
care like
also-
what your gender is or what you identify as. It's
I
two
also
people.
think sex and gender are completely different.
Yeah.
Like your
Mhm.
sexual identity and your gender are very different. Cause like sex refers to like the specific parts of your body, like your
Mhm.
biology.
Yeah.
Where gender is completely up to
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
and whether that plays a role in
It's
sexuality or
expression,
not,
yeah.
I think is also up to that.
And the thing is, I know it may be weird for some. Well, you're pointing it. I know it may be weird for some people to be like, oh, I don't want to watch these 17, 18-year-old girls talk about sex. That's weird and creepy.
But again,
It
if we
shouldn't-
don't talk about it, how are we supposed to?
So we're being
Who
authentic
knows?
here.
And
Like,
how is it supposed to be? People will talk about it like it's some black market scary thing, and that's why such toxic relationships are built.
Yeah.
That's why such bad things are built upon sex and that kind of stuff, and that's why people are so like.
That's why there's that stigma around it, because everyone's like, oh, sex is dirty. Sex is something you should keep private.
And that's
you
almost something
You
that-
don't have to go exposing your sex
Right.
life if you don't want to. That's
It
okay.
is a personal
Not
thing.
everyone wants to hear about
And
your
it's
sex
not okay
life.
to talk about it with someone who doesn't want to hear about it. It's not okay to talk about it to some 5-year-old. That's weird and creepy.
Appropriate time, place, and
Mhm.
people.
And that's
Yeah,
the thing
for
where
sure.
it's like.
But it's not dirty. It's not a dirty topic.
And in sex ed, we're almost taught, like, well, with absence, only way. No, it's not the only way. And the thing is, like you were saying, it can be a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to be some, like, a lot of people cry, like, during, like, sex and that kind of stuff. Not, hopefully not for bad reasons, but, like, for good reasons in a way, you know what I mean? Where it's, like, it's very emotional for a lot of people.
It's a big step in the
big
human
step
experience.
to many people. To some
Yeah.
people, it's not, which I have no issue with. Like,
Mm.
Yeah.
if it's not something that's a big deal to you,
And again, like
whatever.
if it is,
But-
that's your personal opinion, and someone else
Yeah.
can have theirs, and you shouldn't superimpose
But
your
like
opinion on
to
someone
some
else.
people, sex is a lot, and to some people,
It's just another
it's
thing.
their version of like bringing a relationship closer together and giving
Mm-hmm.
another level of trust into that relationship.
Right.
Or it can,
And
also
whether-
be considered like a pastime or just like an active. Like,
Yeah, and
there's
again,
a wide spectrum of what sex is considered.
And
to
sex
certain
is-
people.
sex is always explained, or at least it wasn't like sex ed. Sex is always explained as like a penis going into a vagina. Like that's
It's like
Yeah.
that's
the
it.
penetration is the sex,
So-
but
Mhm.
Is
especially in
So
modern.
two lesbians can't have sex.
Yeah.
That does not make sense.
Like-
so,
It needs to be retaught, and the thing
Yeah.
is, there's so much. We were talking about it in our previous episodes about how sex ed needs to be taught differently, and
it
I
needs to
see-
be diverse.
And what's interesting is that in my current school district, they are reforming it a bit.
that's cool.
But unfortunately, I've already gone through sex ed, so I won't be able to go through the new version because
dang nabbit.
you know,
That's
but
why we're talking about it here.
yeah. But the thing is, I see signs, like picket signs around the school area that's like opt out of sex ed. Look at this like website. And opting out of sex ed is a real thing. And I understand for some religious connotations that's important,
Yeah.
and I understand that some families don't want. And I try to be understanding of all perspectives and views. I know it's our topic for some people, and obviously it's gotta be awkward sometimes,
Oh,
but it's
high
so
key. But you know what?
important.
It's so much better to have an awkward conversation and then understand.
Yeah.
It's so much better to
Okay,
fight the awkward
I
and be
had
like,
to
you know
tell,
what?
like-
Here we go.
I've
on
had
the
to tell
table.
so many of my friends this who like they were like scared to ask their moms for birth control and then like had sex And I was like, would you rather ask your mom for birth control or tell her that you're pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be like, I need this. 'cause,
Which
yeah.
is the lesser of two evils,
Right.
honestly. Like, personally, I don't think birth control is a bad thing.
And in Washington, there's rules and there's laws that you can go to Planned Parenthood and you don't need, I think it's 16, something like that. You don't necessarily need.
I think it's 13 at any.
Is it
At
13?
any care provider.
Hopefully, because that would probably be more ideal. But the position is more of like you don't necessarily need to have a parent's permission, or while it definitely is a level of maturity you have to have, it's not your parents' place to tell you when and when you cannot, in a way. And that's hard because obviously a parent's place is to influence their child and make sure that.
And I feel like a parent's job is to inform a child of all the information,
But not
and
tell
then-
them what to do
and
exactly.
then give them the information, and then let them make a decision on their own. And like you can influence them, and be like, hey, these are my opinions. This is why I believe what I believe, and that's like very strong in parenting, and that's why a lot of kids follow
Yeah.
a lot of their parents' beliefs.
Like my parents have told me about waiting till marriage and that kind of belief, but they never told me you have to wait till marriage. You know?
I think another thing that I also find really interesting that I never learned in sex ed, and I had to learn just from like other people, is like birth control takes a while to like set in.
Oh yeah.
And work.
About a month
And I
normally.
did not know that until someone like told me it, and it was outside of a sex ed classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we learned about sex ed is from like, honestly for me as a freshman, it was from my upperclassmen friends.
Yeah.
And one of them was like, if you ever need anything, like I had to go get Plan B after like this time, and I was like, what? Like
Yeah.
baby freshman me was like, huh?
Yeah. And
You
it's like
had
something.
sex?
What's that? No, honestly, the thing is that like I know personally as a like individual, if anybody needs anything, I will always be the one. I'll drive you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so grateful for my mother. I love my mother so much. She is a
Mom,
nurse.
if you're watching.
Mom, thank you for watching me
We
talk
love
about
our
sex. But also, she is the parent, she's the nurse of the neighborhood. And so she's like the mom to all my friends as well. And she's been super open with me about like, if any of your friends ever need anything, like they can come to me and I can like help them, like help provide them options and like figure out. And then I told her, like one of my friends kind of had a little pregnancy scare, but like it was fine. She told me about it and I was like, Mom, we might have to be driving someone somewhere. And she was like, okay, like when, how did it happen? Like she asked for all the
That happened
information
with
and I was
my
like,
friend.
Mom!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That happened with one of
Thank
my
you,
friends.
Mom.
And one of my friends too. Like
Yeah.
it's unfortunate in a few ways, but it's not uncommon to have a pregnancy scare.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I would encourage you at this point to rewatch our abortion video and information on that. Both of our abortion
Honestly,
videos.
even though I'm just gonna be wide open here, I'm a virgin, but like even if my period is like a few days later, like could
I am the I am the Virgin
Am I married right now?
I am the Virgin Mary. I'm gonna. It's
And so like I think it's I don't want to say we should make a joke out of sex, but like why does it have to be so
sometimes
serious?
you gotta laugh about it.
Sometimes
like,
there's funny moments. It's like, oh, well, that's awkward, and
like,
then just
like
like,
I'm sorry, the penis diagrams they show us in sex ed, I was like.
And they're like, no, but like, see at my school they were like, you all need to be mature, like blah blah blah, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, they're like,
oh my
you'll be
God,
fine.
It's also
like if we
a
can make a
penis
joke out of it,
diagram.
yeah.
Like someone took the time to draw that.
Yeah, like someone took the time to look at a
never
penis
thought about
that hard.
They're like, can you turn around? I need to get the other.
can we talk about how the people watching this are probably like, what is going on? Why are these 17-year-olds
Something
talking
that
about
I
this?
really want to say, I think that like along with school and like parenting, just growing up, I feel like when you talk about sex, I feel like it is so important to not only talk about, you know, like what sex is and all of that, but also to make sure that girls and boys, men as well, know that they never have to use sex to gain someone's respect,
Absolutely.
to prove
Yes.
themselves. They
Totally.
never have to
Totally.
sacrifice sex or use sex in any way
Yeah.
to gain something.
And you're not
Yeah.
responsible to give someone sex.
No, you don't owe that to anyone.
Ever.
That's
Ever.
a personal thing. That is your body. That is
Yeah.
all you.
You may have dated someone for 5 years, you don't owe them anything.
Even along with those stigmas and like going back to sexuality, I feel like nowadays it's such like, I don't want to say it's such like a popular thing to like be gay or like be bi-curious.
But it's become more
It's become more common and
Yeah.
it's become more open.
It's become more accepted, especially in
and
our
like
generation.
the conversation has started to open up about it.
And that's so good
Which is
because
awesome.
look, we're talking about it.
And you may feel awful or awkward watching this, but that's part of the process, my loves.
You're welcome.
Welcome for the uncomfortable.
Yeah, like one of my friends is transgender and he's getting surgery soon and I'm so excited for him because
Yeah.
like
That's a huge
I-
step.
yeah,
That's amazing.
I've known him since elementary school, like before the whole transition. And so just like seeing him come into himself is so wonderful to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I just have a
So
friend
good
who
to
just
see.
got his top surgery, and it's so great to like it's just watching that.
It's like you're becoming
It's like watching them.
be
And
with-
I've never like seen someone go through that.
Mhm.
But like I do know someone who is transgender and who has talked about like how in the past they didn't feel happy, they didn't feel like themselves, and to know that they did something to make themselves happy and didn't give a crap about what anyone else
Yeah.
thought.
It's like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've wanted to. I have a non-binary friend, and we wanted to bring them in.
so
And it
It
just
just
schedules
never
don't
worked
work very well.
Yeah.
It's so they're very busy. We love them. But like that kind of perspective, obviously, we can't personally speak on, and I will never try to personally speak on because I've never gone
But
through that.
it's heartbreaking because I have a non-binary friend and we have gendered colored caps and gowns for graduation. Like
Oh, really?
girls
Oh
wear
my
white,
God.
girls wear white and boys wear blue.
I never thought
And so
about
the
that.
non-binary
Are you
kids,
serious?
yeah, like the non-binary students, like I've seen them post on their social media and be like, I got, like why isn't there a middle color? Like I don't feel like either of these and you gave me a white or a blue one and like I don't know, I don't feel like that one but I also don't feel like the other one and it's just like
yeah.
But also,
I
why
never
divide
thought about
There's
that,
no
so I don't
reason to
have-
divide
Yeah,
them.
why?
My class doesn't. Actually, that's really like interesting though, because my mom was just talking about that how her class did, and that how she's like, oh, your class only has one color. I'm like, oh yeah. I never thought about that. Really.
I hadn't thought about it either until they posted it and I was like, wait, like that's so not inclusive.
Yeah.
That's oh my goodness. Like, how do you can't handle that? That's the thing where it's like if society places these kind of things upon people who may identify as non-binary,
It's
and
like
it's
you
not
have
like
to choose one or the other and it's like
And it's not like someone is dangerous. That's the thing too, where it's like if you think about, oh well, transgender people are like dangerous in a way. They're trying to pose as one thing to get to one act.
Okay,
Why?
first of all, if any people like go to that much effort to try and be heinous with like malicious intent, transgender should never be used as like a pathway for that. And people have criminalized that.
Like back to the not being inclusive in schools, like what are your guys' view on like the restroom situation? Of like
I think
there being
people
girl
should.
and boy
I
restrooms.
think that people should be able to use the restroom that they identify with, and
Yeah.
if that is, and I don't know exactly how non-binary people go about that. I'm not exactly sure, actually.
That's why I always think there should be a middle bathroom. Of just,
Right,
Like,
and I think it should be. The thing
well,
is,
because even when you go to like arenas or something, like there's always like a family bathroom where it doesn't matter. There's no specific
Yeah.
gender.
as long as it's individual, I think, because I know, like, at least I'm not comfortable going to the bathroom with, like, someone who is, like, actually identifies as a male, just because that's just one of my things, you know, I can barely go to the bathroom with people who,
I'm so peaceful.
I hate,
Can I just say that?
yeah, I am too, I hate public restrooms, and that's just because it's not because it's not a gender thing, I just hate public restrooms.
Oh, they're gross.
Yeah, and the
That's
thing
why I
is,
got such good like muscles. It's kind of like whenever sorry, I gotta say, like I refuse to touch toilet seats. They're nasty.
So we have a new workout plan for you.
oh my god,
Ladies.
no. But that's not to say,
multitasking.
but that's not to say that I'm scared of people who may have previously been male who now identify as female. I'm not scared of that. I just don't.
She just doesn't want to pee in public.
So leave me alone, okay?
So doing that in front of her own gender is hard enough.
Yeah, I don't need the extra, like, you know? And so I think that there should be, you know, in single bathrooms, I definitely believe in. And I think based upon gender, there should be no discrimination, period. No matter, like, if you're non-binary or if you're female or male or any of the in-between.
I'm in like the same place as you, like, go with what you identify, but I also don't, like, there being one single bathroom,
No one
in
should
my
be using this for malicious
mind,
intent.
seems like it would raise the risk of rape or, like, sexual
That's
abuse.
true, actually.
If there was just, like, one restroom that everyone used.
I mean,
Just
also,
like-
but I would like to bring up, it's very personal, but at our school, there has been 2 cases that I've been made aware of, and I want to say they have been prosecuted against, or in the process of being prosecuted against, and this is not to isolate the people who have gone through this, but there's been 2 cases that I'm aware of that my friends have been assaulted in the bathrooms, where a guy will go into the girls' bathroom and do things because there's not a camera in there, and that's happened with 2 of my friends.
In a school?
In a school
You've gotta
bathroom
be kidding.
that have multiple
Wow.
stalls and things like that. So I
Oh
want
my
to make a
God.
point that these gender bathrooms don't have, like, they don't
They
prevent
don't
that
They
from
don't
happening.
necessarily make that separation.
And I want, and the thing is that we have cameras outside the bathrooms, and you can tell when people walk in and out, and they have not, and the school has done barely anything. And it's really, really, really bad, and it's traumatic, and it's awful. And so just to point out that nothing will stop people from doing truly malicious things if they are committed to doing malicious things.
Terrible
Yeah.
people will do terrible things, regardless of their gender, their sexuality, their anything.
Yeah, so you can't associate that where it's like, oh, just because it's a guy, he'll do. Boys will be boys. That's dumb.
That's the stupidest
Boys
thing.
will not be boys if you raise them right.
Yeah, and there's like shirts
Also,
that's
it's
like,
Or
associated,
like, even sometimes it isn't the parents' fault. It's just like, but like, why is boys will be boys an excuse?
Toxic
but girls will be
masculinity.
girls?
Yeah, but also don't
on.
assume the worst of men. Like,
No,
don't, you
obviously.
know what I mean? Like, that's such a
Obviously.
dumb
Like,
phrase.
I know some wonderful men, obviously.
Wonderful.
so many.
Great.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really have guy friends until high school, and I'm so glad I got guy friends. I love them to death. Like,
This is so cute. I'm so. Can we take a minute?
oh, Biscuit looks like
looks like an
Bambi.
egg.
No,
Looks like
like
an egg.
Bambi.
Oh my gosh, it's the world record egg that we talked about.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Anyways.
Anyways.
But someone, it's not only gender and that kind of stuff, you know, because again, we are not trying, I hate when people try to say or try to believe that we are like assuming or we're not enough because we're 4 white women talking about this. Just because we're 4 white women doesn't mean you don't have like, we don't have a certain view on things. We can, and that's sounding so like, oh, okay, privileged little, like, you know what I mean?
This is the
But-
viewpoint of 4 like middle class Generation Z white women, and this is the viewpoint that we represent. And also, we don't all have the same viewpoint 100% of the time.
No,
like
we don't.
Yeah, if
even
you watch
even
our
in our
episodes, like-
demographic, we can have variety, and so
Yeah.
we're representing what we have and what we are,
Yeah.
and then
You can't
That's
limit
what we're
us
trying
to
to do.
that, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, you know, just because, like, especially as Gen Z girls and, you know, whatever, it's, our opinions still hold true and our opinions still hold strong. And again, on Blue Forge, they have so many different people of color. Most of the shows, I put one of our show is really the only show that we have hosts that are white and Gen Z and just
yeah.
and females. So if you would like to check out any other opinions on anything else, go to shows that have people of color as the main hosts. There are so many
There's
resources.
so many.
Yes.
There's so many. Literally, just scroll through. You'll find them.
And we would love to potentially in our next episode or anything like that, we try to arrange guests. It's complicated.
We're trying to include other viewpoints so we can hear it like in person, not just through the comments as well.
Yes.
But don't be afraid to share to the comments, right? Because without those comments, we don't have the other opinions we need, right?
Yeah.
So share with us. Let us know what you think.
You guys are also the start of our conversation.
You're the stars.
Yes.
We love you guys and we appreciate your feedback.
We opened up the conversation. Please continue it.
Love is love. Yay!